Dear students, welcome to our YouTube channel Vidya for Success. Yes, children, in our last video we discussed about placentation and types of placentation. So today we are going to study about the types of flowers based on the position of gynoecium. What do you mean by gynoecium? Gynoecium is nothing but a female reproductive unit, right? So we know in the bisexual flower there are four orals will be present: calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. So all these orals are arranged on a receptacle called as thalamus. So on the thalamus all the four orals are arranged in a particular pattern, right? So based on the position of gynoecium with respect to the other three orals of the flower, the flowers will be divided into three different types. So what is the criteria for the classification of flower here? So based on the position of gynoecium on the thalamus with respect to the other orals of the same flower, other orals in the sense calyx, corolla, androecium. So with respect to the other three oral, what is the position of gynoecium in the flower? So this is the main concept here for the classification of flower. So based on the position of gynoecium with respect to the other three orals of the same flower, the flowers are divided into three different types. So the one type of flower is hypogynous flower, and second type is perigynous flower, and the third one is epigynous flower. So these are the three types of flowers. They are divided based on the position of gynoecium in the flower. So let us study one by one. So what do you mean by hypogynous flower? So hypo is nothing but the higher position, right? So in this kind of flower, the position of ovary is present above the thalamus, right? You just observe in the diagram, the ovary position is above the thalamus, and all other orals like androecium, then corolla, then calyx, they are present just below the ovary, right? So when the position of ovary is above the thalamus and all other orals are just present below the ovary, such a kind of flower is called as hypogynous flower. So simply we can tell that the position of ovary is superior. So it is present above. Above is nothing but superior position. Ovary is located in the superior position in the hypogynous flower, right? So in this type of flower, the gynoecium, that means the female reproductive unit, occupies the highest position. That means it present above, and while the other parts situated below it. You can observe in the diagram clearly the male reproductive unit, that means the stamens, corolla, calyx. So these three parts of the flower, orals of the flower, they are present just below the ovary, right? So gynoecium position is superior position. So this kind of flowers are called as hypogynous flower. So example of flower showing hypogynous condition is mustard, China rose, brinjal flower. So in these three examples, the position of ovary in the flower is superior position. So when the ovary is in superior position, the flower is named as hypogynous flower. The second type of flower is perigynous flower. So what do you mean by perigynous flower? So in case of perigynous flower, the position of female reproductive unit is almost equal with the position of all other three orals of the flower. You can just observe in the diagram. So the first as well as second diagram showing the perigynous condition of the flower. Clear? So how we can define the perigynous flower? If the gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flowers are located on the rim of the thalamus almost at the same level, right? So you just observe the diagram. The gynoecium is situated in the center, right? And the other parts of the flower like androecium and corolla, calyx, they are located on the rim of the thalamus. So there is a rim is present to the thalamus. So on the rim, other three orals are arranged. Clear? So this condition of the flower is called as perigynous flower. So when the floral orals are arranged in this way, it give almost the equal position to all other orals of the flower. That means the gynoecium position is almost equal with the position of androecium, corolla and calyx. Clear? So this kind of flowers are called as perigynous flower. So which flowers are showing the perigynous condition? So the best example is rose, peach and plum. In rose, peach and plum flower, we can see the perigynous condition. That means, what do you mean by perigynous condition? So the gynoecium, that means the ovary, is situated in the center and other parts of the flowers are located on the rim of the thalamus. So this is what the definition of perigynous flower. Then the third type is epigynous flower. What do you mean by epigynous flower? In case of epigynous flower, ovary is located at the base. Clear? And thalamus is rises in such a way it completely encloses the ovary, and from the tip of the thalamus all other floral parts will be formed. Clear? And the position of ovary is inferior position. That means the ovary present just below the all other orals of the flower. So this kind of flower is named as epigynous flower. So let us look into the definition. So the margin of the thalamus grows upward. You can see the margin of the thalamus, it grows upward and it completely encloses the ovary, right? Can you see the ovary like other examples what we have studied, previous examples? No, right? Because here the ovary is completely enclosed by the rim or the margin of the thalamus, and the ovary completely getting fused with it. The other parts of the flower arises above the ovary, right? So androecium, corolla, calyx, they are present just above the ovary. So when the position of ovary is inferior, below the all other orals of the flower, such a condition of the flower is called as epigynous. Clear? And the flower is named as epigynous flower. And the ovary position here is inferior position. What do you mean by inferior? Inferior is nothing but below, right? So the ovary is located below the all other oral of the flower. So such a kind of flower is named as epigynous flower. So epigynous flower ali, what is the position of ovary? Ovary position is inferior here. Example of flowers showing the epigynous condition are guava. So guava plant flower, they are showing epigynous condition. And one more example is cucumber. So in the cucumber plant, the flowers are showing epigynous condition. So these are the three different types of flowers. So they are divided based on the position of the female reproductive unit, right? So one is hypogynous. So in the hypogynous position of ovary is superior, right? So second one is perigynous. So in the perigynous, the ovary position is half inferior. That means it is not present below. Clear? It is almost at the equal level of all other orals of the flower. Then the third type is epigynous. In case of epigynous, the ovary position is in the inferior position. Second type of symmetry, that is zygomorphic symmetry. So the zygomorphic symmetry can be seen in some of the flower. What do you mean by zygomorphic symmetry? So when the flower can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular plane. Such a kind of symmetry is called as zygomorphic symmetry. So it is also called as, this kind of symmetry is also called as bilateral symmetry. Bi is nothing but how much? 2. Clear? So only through one plane, we can divide the flower into two similar halves. Clear? So such a kind of symmetry is said to be zygomorphic symmetry. So the example of flowers they are showing zygomorphic symmetry are cassia, pea. So in the pea plant the flowers are showing zygomorphic symmetry. That means only through one plane we can divide the flower into two equal halves, not through the any plane, only through one particular plane we can divide the flower into two equal halves, so that in both the halves we can see the equal division of all the orals. So this is the diagram showing the zygomorphic symmetry. So that you can observe in the diagram, only through one particular plane we can divide the flower into exact two similar halves. Then there is one more criteria used to classify the flower into different types. So that criteria is nothing but symmetry. So we have already studied about the symmetry in the animal kingdom lesson, right? Because the symmetry was considered as a criteria to classify the animals also. So in the angiospermic plants, the floral symmetry is considered for the classification of flower into number of types. Clear? So based on the symmetry, the flowers are divided into three different types. Then what are the symmetry? So there are three types of symmetry can be seen in different kinds of angiospermic flower. So the one is actinomorphic symmetry. The another terminology we use for the actinomorphic symmetry is radial symmetry. And the second type of symmetry is zygomorphic symmetry. It is also called as bilateral symmetry. And the third one is asymmetry. So these are the three kinds of symmetry can be seen in different groups of angiospermic flower. So let us study one by one. What do you mean by actinomorphic symmetry? So the one more terminology we use for actinomorphic symmetry is radial symmetry, right? So we have seen some of the animals in the animal kingdom, they are showing radial symmetry. What do you mean by radial symmetry? So radial symmetry is nothing but here the animals can be divided into two equal halves through any plane passing through the central axis, right? So in case of the flower, the symmetry is said to be actinomorphic only when the flower can be divided into two equal halves through any plane passing through the center. So when we are using any plane to divide the flower into equal halves, we can able to divide. Clear? Because the kind of symmetry of the flower is actinomorphic symmetry. Clear? So when the flower is showing the actinomorphic symmetry, such a flowers can be divided into two equal halves through any plane passing through the center. Clear? So such kinds of flowers are called as actinomorphic flower, and the symmetry is said to be actinomorphic symmetry. So the example of flowers they are showing actinomorphic symmetry are mustard. In the mustard plant the flowers are showing actinomorphic symmetry. Then in the datura plant also the flowers are showing actinomorphic symmetry. You can have a look into the diagram here. So by this diagram you will get an idea how the flower can be divided into two equal halves through any plane. So in this diagram they have shown the many plane they are passing through the center. So through any of the plane we can divide this particular flower into two equal halves. So this is a kind of actinomorphic flower. Clear? So the flower is said to be actinomorphic only when we can able to divide the flower into two equal halves through any plane passing through the center. Then let us move to this type of symmetry is asymmetry. What do you mean by asymmetry? So asymmetry is nothing but absence of symmetry. A flower cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center. So it is not possible to divide the flower into two similar halves through any of the plane, by any of the plane passing through the center. So such a kind of symmetry is called as asymmetry. Asymmetry is nothing but absence of symmetry. It is not possible to divide the floral parts into two equal halves by any vertical plane passing through the center. Clear? So the best example of flower is canna flower. So in the canna flower there is no symmetry to the flower, so that the kind of symmetry is named as asymmetry. Clear? So these are the some criteria used to classify flower into number of different types. So in today's class we just studied about how the flowers are divided into different types based on the position of ovary, that means based on the position of female reproductive unit, and also we discussed about based on symmetry how the flowers are divided in the angiospermic plant. Thank you.